What life-altering things should every human ideally get to experience at least once in their lives? The night sky without any light pollution. It's quite sad how many people in cities don't get to admire the grandeur of our near cosmos. I don't usually call this out, but hot damn, thanks for the gold/silver and my most upvoted post ever. Best cake day present. The reason knowing about space and our place in the universe is so important is that it fundamentally can change your perspective about everything. Living single and alone. It's a very specific kind of freedom, but a touch of fear. I can do whatever I want. At the same time, if something bad happened, it might be a bit before anyone even noticed. Eating healthy food for like 2 months straight. You never realize how shitty you feel if you've been feeling that way literally your entire life. Also helps you realize how insanely addictive sugar/fast food is. Once you go back to it, the cravings kick in immediately, at least in my experience. Travel alone doesn't need to be long, but I think it requires a skill to be alone and feel comfortable about it. Not many people take the leap to go and or don't have the skill. It is very valuable to feel comfortable being alone, being in a crowd for example. A long road trip with friends. It's a bonding experience being in a little metal box with a group of friends for hours at a time trying to get somewhere together. You'll drive each other crazy, you'll make each other laugh. It's truly a wonderful experience. Total isolation. I'm talking traveling out to a remote location far away from civilization and far away from anyone else. Just you and the world around you. All alone. And not another soul in sight. It's such a bizarre yet powerful feeling. Here you are, completely free from the constraints of civilization, free from your obligations, free from your routines. There's nothing holding you back now except yourself. You're experiencing life at its purest. I went on one hell of a bushwalk not too long ago that took me deep into a forest that very few people have been through. There was a moment where I was sitting on this fallen tree where it hit me just how truly far away and isolated I was. And with that, just how far away all my problems were too. Out here, it was just me and the trees. It really seems to put life back into perspective when you inevitably have to head back and re-enter civilization. The juxtaposition is something else. Failure. You'd be surprised how many people constantly have their life fixed for them and never have to fail at anything. Failure allows us to learn coping skills, resilience, problem solving, determination, so many skills that many people today just don't have. I wish everyone got to experience lucid dreaming at least once. It's such an amazingly interesting state to be in, just for the fact that you're inside of a dream. You're fully conscious that you're now someone else and in a body that isn't your physical body, yet you can touch and feel the dream world as if it was the real world. The feeling of having mastered something. Piano, poetry, writing, some video game, coding, anything really. There is a special self-knowledge that comes from having mastered something that everyone really needs to know. Go into a nursing home and volunteer to sit with some of the loneliest residents. Let them talk. Just listen. You'll learn so much and experience every emotion you know and some you never felt before. Love, not lustful, hormonal and temporary rushes of emotion. Deep sacrificial, spiritual, hell, or high water, to the ends of the earth love. To love someone like that, and to be loved like that in return, is the highest point of human existence. I would key and die for my wife without a second thought. She knows this, and I know she would do the same for me. I never really lived until I loved, and specifically, loved like this. Creation. For most people this will probably mean having a family and raising children. For others, and a large overlap with the child having crowd, this would mean taking some idea, some concept, and turning it into reality. Maybe it's making the video game idea you've had since you were a kid. Maybe it's writing a book, or producing a unique work of art. It could be designing your own home, or inventing something new. We as human beings have an urge to create things, and doing so seems to grant some kind of supreme satisfaction and joy. fighting for one's life in some form. 3 years ago I was in a river for the swim portion of a triathlon. Because of heavy rainfall the week prior, the current was moving incredibly quickly. The race organizers eventually cancelled the swim portion of the event, but not until myself and about half the other competitors were already in the water. About halfway through the swim, the current became too much, and I was being carried downstream despite my strongest attempts to swim against it. It was at that moment that I was literally swimming for my life. It was terrifying at the moment, but an experience I'm really glad I had. Edit. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. Living abroad for at least half a year. This is especially true if that other country has a completely different culture than your home country. If you are, for example, an US American, try to live in China for a while. They are always looking for English teachers and pay good money if you are certified and have experience. Scuba diving. I promise you, it's a completely different world down there, and it's not ours. You'll be amazed, and maybe even get an understanding and a greater connection to our Earth and all the living things on this chunk of rock floating through space. This might sound counterintuitive to the question, but my answer is losing a career job. Now, hear me out. Most people think they're smart, good at life skills, and can generally get by, but when you lose your job all of this is put to the test. It forces you to really pay attention to how you spend your money. It forces you to focus on bills, and when they arrive / when they are due, it forces you to polish up your resume, which is always a good thing to have on hand. It gives you an opportunity to change your life for the better, but most of all it pushes you to survive on your own, giving you the confidence that you can do it again. Is it a fun period in life? No, not at all. It's scary as F. However, once you find a new job, you continue forward with an appreciation for what you've got and for how fast it can all be taken away. Edit. You don't have to actually get fired to go through this process. The threat of being fired, having a period of layoffs where the future is unknown, and toxic work environments can all equally provide this same experience. The point, as cliche as this sounds, is that a calm motion does not make for a skilled sailor. Sometimes the waves need to be choppy in order to help develop your character and ultimately your ability to adult. Being the person in a room that everyone else looks up to, whether it be as a teacher or anything else. Just knowing I could make a difference in some kid's life was the best part of coaching tennis for me. Two things come to mind. Standing somewhere very high and just absorbing the view. It's easy, especially in our urban cities and overdeveloped suburbs, to lose the sense of how big the world really is. People talk about big sky in places like Texas, but you haven't experienced big sky until you're standing a mile or 3 high and looking out over the planet. And being in an airplane does not count. Also, really experiencing the night sky, somewhere truly dark. Big bonus if you're doing both at the same time. Create something that someone else genuinely enjoys or is entertained by. A story, a painting, anything that harnesses your creativity. It's such a raw and rewarding feeling. It's easy to look at authors and artists and filmmakers and see them as these superhumans with unique gifts that you could never access, but the truth is that you're just as capable as any of them. Skydiving. I went with some buddies fresh out of high school before we all went off to college, and I can honestly say it changed my life. It'll flip your whole perspective, and you'll get a taste of how small and insignificant everything is in comparison to the bigger picture. Plus, it's fun. Travel, especially at an early age. I came from a very small South Texas town filled with exactly the kind of people that description probably calls to your mind. Luckily, my parents loved to travel and almost always brought me along. I also went on one of the people-to-people student ambassador trips when I was in high school that took me to several European countries, along with kids from a couple of other states. It was through all these experiences that I got to meet people from all walks of life, get new perspectives, and most importantly, take a good hard look at the kind of person my town was turning me into. I firmly believe that without getting to travel and amass these experiences, I'd probably have ended up as the exact kind of hate-filled Tony that 70% of my graduating class ended up as. In an ideal world, everybody would have easy access to travel from an early age. I honestly believe everyone should at the very least travel out of state before they graduate high school. The perspective you gain from it is legitimately life-changing. A music festival. Preferably one that is not massively mainstream. Essentially no responsibility for a whole weekend aside from enjoying yourself and not dying.